All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Wow, what a great crowd we have here today. I'm Lori Mattson. I am President and CEO of the Tri-City Regional Chamber, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to our State of the Ports Luncheon, sponsored by Chaplaincy Healthcare. And joining us from Chaplaincy Healthcare to say a few words is Leslie Streeter. She's their Director of Business Development and Operations. Please help me welcome Leslie.
Well, good afternoon. It is a pleasure to be with all of you here today, and what a crowd this is. This is exciting. Chaplaincy Healthcare is excited to be today's luncheon sponsor, and I personally am excited because I get a few minutes to talk to you about all of the different ways that Chaplaincy Healthcare serves our community. Before I jump into that, I want to give you a little bit of our history. The chaplaincy started in 1971 when a group of local churches got together, and they had a vision to go out into the community to alleviate suffering. They hired a chaplain, and they set out to do their work. 46 years later, what started with that small group of churches and that single chaplain has evolved into an agency that is made up of 140 caring and professional people who are serving this community with exemplary spiritual, emotional, and physical care. Our mission is to serve others with that exemplary spiritual and emotional care. And that's what drives us to do our work. But imagine, if you will, that you're with your spouse and you're sitting in the doctor's office and you hear that phrase that nobody wants to hear. I'm sorry, there's nothing more we can do. Well, that's when hospice comes in and says, yes, there is. There always is. Whether we're caring for the frail and dying in our community hospice house or in their own homes, patients and families are surrounded by support, comfort, and compassion. When the death of someone that you love leaves you in a fog that makes navigating life seem absolutely impossible, that's when our grief care specialists say, you're not alone. Through our support groups and our classes and private conversations, we offer a listening presence without judgment to help you on your journey to healing. And if you happen to find yourself struggling with the side effects of a curative treatment or a serious illness and you can't leave your home, that's when our palliative care team comes knocking. This extra layer of support provided in people's homes reduces physical and emotional stress and increases quality of life and peace of mind. If your child loses a loved one, maybe a parent, a sibling, or a grandparent, and the intensity and pain of that grief leaves them numb, Cork's Place is there to surround them with other children and age-specific activities to help them express the emotions that go along with that difficult grief. When you find yourself just struggling with life's challenges in general and navigating all the uncertainty is just too much to bear, that's when our behavioral health team steps in and says, don't give up. Our behavioral health program is one of the few in the community that accepts Medicare, offers bilingual services, and can visit patients in their homes if needed. If you happen to be thrust into a medical crisis that lands you in the emergency room or in the hospital, and you're not only feeling the physical distress, but the emotional stress as well, a referral can be made to our spiritual care team of chaplains who come alongside you to help cope and find meaning in the midst of that distress. All of these scenarios that I just described represent powerful human issues, and the needs in our community are very real. In 2016, we served 969 patients and families through our hospice care. We served 1,506 adults through our grief care support groups and classes. 425 patients and families were cared for in their homes through palliative care. 57 children were cared for by Corks Place. 506 clients of all ages were seen through our behavioral health program. And 28,000 hours of spiritual care were provided by our chaplains who serve throughout the community in hospitals, the Tri-City Cancer Center, and the Juvenile Justice Center. This year, in 2017, we expect those numbers to be even higher. And it's our vision at Chaplaincy Healthcare that we will continue to evolve and expand. And it's our hope that we will become the first place that you turn to when you need that comprehensive care and expert guidance during illness and grief. I'd like to invite you to visit our website to learn more about our services, to find out about volunteer opportunities, and also find about other ways that you can support our work. It's been a pleasure to be here, and again, a pleasure to sponsor this luncheon, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your program. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie, and thank you to Chaplaincy Healthcare. We appreciate you sponsoring our luncheon and appreciate the great work you do in our community. Now I'd like to invite Elizabeth Holt, our Membership Development Director, to the stage to announce our Member of the Month, as well as introducing our new members. And you can see we've got a lot of new plaques up here. We've got a lot of new members here today. So please help me welcome Elizabeth.
Thanks, Lori. And like she said, we're proud to announce our Member of the Month and also all of our new members. So each month, the Regional Chambers Awards and Recognition Committee selects a member to recognize as Outstanding Member of the Month. Given that November, we celebrate Veterans Day, and this company has a long-standing practice of hiring veterans, we are pleased to announce Elevate as Outstanding Member of the Month. Elevate has been a member of the Regional Chamber since its founding in 2005. Over the past 12 years, Elevate has experienced exponential growth and even won our coveted Business on a Roll Award in 2010. Elevate was also one of the first companies to participate in our economic gardening program. Owner Paul Carlisle has been a dedicated volunteer for the Regional Chamber, serving on our board of directors and also multiple committees. Please help me welcome Paul Carlisle, owner of Elevate, to the stage to accept the award today. Thank you, Paul, and the staff of Elevate. We appreciate your involvement with the Chamber. Next, as Lori said, I'm once again excited to announce some of the newest members who are able to join us today. We have quite a few thanks to the membership event that we did in October, so thank you to all those who participated again. So if I call your name, please come forward, accept your membership plaque from Lori, and please stay after the luncheon for a group photo. First, we have Sean Ellers with Free Culture Clothing, our very own Bill Shibley with Harvest Fresh Produce, Rose Krieger with Evergreen Home Loans, Jackie Luger with Roy's Appliance Service, Christy Farger with Farger & Company, Lori Johnson with First Security Bank, Melissa Montgomery with Remax Professionals, Todd Kleppen with Christian Association of Youth Mentoring, Pam Bauman and John Alstead with A&G Solutions, Felicia Bouchard with Design 7, Laura Jansen with Milbrandt Vineyards, Lynn Stedman, MED, Nikki Kennedy and Garrick Russell with Professional Investment Management Services, Ukam Chanarath with Century 21, Gracie Bartoldas with Edward Jones Financial, Cheryl Irwin with U.S. Bank, Kelly Murphy with Converge One, and Mary Taylor with Tailored Living Magazine. Please join me in welcoming all of our new members today. Thank you very much for coming, and please take time to say hi to some of our newest members. The last thing I'd like to do is recognize some of our Chamber's longest-standing members. If you'll draw your attention to the screen, the chambers that are listed have been involved with the Regional Chamber for 20 years or longer. Please join me in giving these members a round of applause as well. Thank you.
Boy, what a great group. Thanks so much. And thank you, Elizabeth, and thanks to everybody for your membership and our longtime committed members as well. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our chair of our board of directors, Tony Umek, who's going to lead us through the rest of the program. Tony.
Thanks, Lori.
Notes?
Yeah, I got it.
Perfect. Okay.
Well, thank you. You may want to hold your applause until I'm done. You may decide you don't want to applause when I'm completed, so I appreciate that. But anyway, again, let me add my thanks for Lori and staff for all they've done, and for all of you for being here. This is a great turnout. We're looking forward to a very, very informative discussion of the panel. We're going to give you some opportunities to ask some questions. We talked about new members, and the members have been here for a long time. Thanks to our membership, we are now the 5th largest chamber in the state, but more importantly, we lead the way with innovative programs. You heard about economic gardening. It's an opportunity for companies that are moving forward to grow quickly. We are having that program each year. Because of our efforts, the state has copied that program now, and it's part of the state of Washington's program. We have other innovative programs like that, and we look forward to your membership giving us ideas so we can continue to do that and go forward. We're going to have an exciting program. The ports discussion will be very interesting. But before we do that, we have a couple of things we want to talk about. Each meeting we've done for the past couple of years, we've given the opportunity for you to do live polling, and that's to use your browser. This is sponsored by Cascade Natural Gas. We appreciate their sponsorship. So if you would take out your cell phone and to your browser and tune it to slido.com. I think there's some instructions up on the screen. What this is, you'll then enter the enter code TCRCC. This is going to give you the opportunity to ask questions that we can provide to the ports either here or later. These questions will be sorted by the chamber staff as quickly as possible, so try to get them in as early as you can. They can be anonymous, but they will give you an opportunity to ask some very important questions. So please take that opportunity to do that. I'll give you a minute or two. As I said, you may continue throughout the program to do that. So now it's my pleasure to introduce today's moderator, Mike Gonzalez. Mike is currently the evening news anchor and news director at KAPP, KAPP-KVEW TV, ABC. He also hosts the Northwest Food, Brew, and Wine Show that airs on that program through ABC. He's originally from Miami, Florida, and I just talked to him about that. He's actually enjoying it here, but it's clearly a different climate, but he seems to be doing quite well, and he looks quite healthy, so he must be doing well. Mike, appreciate it. He's covered news all over the United States. He's an award-winning journalist. He's been in the Tri-Cities since 2012. Please help me give him a warm Tri-Cities welcome. Mike?
Tony, thanks so much. I appreciate that. And like you said, I am from Miami, Florida. My folks keep telling me you can't get any further unless you move to Alaska if you want to do news there. But I married into Washington State, and absolutely love it here. Worked in Spokane for 6 years. Worked here now several years. So I've been in Washington State now a decade, and I can truly say that there is no better state in the entire country, and I've worked all over the place. I started in Florida, North Carolina, where else did I work? Virginia, Missouri, Nebraska, then finally Washington State. So I can truly say this is the best state in the union from a beauty standpoint, from economic development to what we've got going on in Seattle. And I honestly think we are the hidden gem, not only in Washington, but in the United States. And I think sometimes we don't give ourselves credit here in the Tri-Cities of how beautiful it is here, how many smart people that we have in this area, and also the diversity and just the wonderful people that are here. So I'm just a huge advocate for the Tri-Cities, and everywhere I go in the state, I just scream. I kind of want you guys to come, but I kind of don't in a way. But yeah, I just absolutely love it here. Before I get started, I want to thank some folks who have made this day possible. Lori, thank you first of all for inviting me. Just tickled to death that I could be a part of this. Also, want to thank Tony, PS Media, and also the Chamber Public Relations staff, Tara and Austin. Can you give them a round of applause? Because I've been working with them, and they've definitely made it a lot easier for me. They just hand me the script, and I start talking. It's like, this is my teleprompter here. So other folks that I want to thank are you guys for coming. Give yourselves a round of applause, because, it's this group that, you're contributing to the vibrancy of the community, and also chaplaincy for the wonderful work that they do. And we need to highlight you guys more for, the works that you guys do. Because I just went through that with my mother not too long ago, and and that support mechanism is so important, and you guys deserve way more recognition from a media standpoint. So make sure you see me after this, and I really do want to highlight the good works that you are doing. All right. I'm Mike Gonzalez from KAPP-KVEW Local News here, the ABC affiliate. I'm the news director and evening anchor, so you can watch me at 5, 6, and 6:30 to 7, shameless plug. That's the only one I'll give myself, but honestly, this is just a great news market, and like I said, really vibrant, and just a great place to cover the news between Yakima, Walla Walla, the Tri-Cities. There is always something happening, and the thing that I love about this is the collaborative nature. We've got 3 cities, we've got Yakima, we've got Walla Walla, and all these entities collaborate to make it a really wonderful place. So, from a news standpoint, I get excited about those type of things. So and that's what made me really excited that the port was involved. Also, my GM sends regards, Brian Paul, that some of you probably know, Shelly Ranzier, who's our sales manager. We're really doing wonderful things from that. And myself, I'm a small business owner too. They mentioned that I host Northwest Food, Brew and Wine, and this is a small business that I own as a production company that our general manager has allowed me, to make some side money, if you will, and help market restaurants. And as a matter of fact, Steve Simmons, who I saw here today, he signed up to be a title sponsor with us, so that was super exciting, and just their support to help me offset some of those costs so we can get some of those smaller restaurants involved is just a huge thing. I'm super passionate about food. When Tony was interrupted, I was deep into my chicken there, so it kind of surprised me. So yeah, and it's just a fun show that I hope you guys will watch. It typically airs on Sundays on KAPP-KVEW, and you can find the show if you go to Facebook, Northwest Food, Brew and Wine. Just a lot of fun. All right, well, today's program, let's get to that. It features a panel discussion with executives from all 3 port districts, and for a news geek like me, I get excited about that, like ports and city councils and mayors. So I was excited to be a part of this. So I'm going to start by introducing all the 3 members that we have. Starting with the Port of Benton, please welcome Executive Director Scott Keller to the stage. Scott has been with the Port of Benton since 1989. He started with the ports as the Assistant Executive Director. Airport Director, was promoted to Executive Director in 2002. Scott holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Economics from Rocky Mountain College in Billings, Montana. He also holds a Professional Port Manager certification through the American Association of Port Authorities. Prior to his work at the Port of Benton, Scott was in the lending and real estate industry. So let's welcome Scott one more time. Next up, representing the Port of Kennewick, let's welcome to the stage Chief Executive Officer Tim Arntzen. Tim joined the Port of Kennewick in 2002 and has been the CEO since 2004. Tim is a University of Oregon alumni with a Bachelor of Science degree in Geography. Tim moved to the Tri-Cities in 1996 from Oregon, and prior to his tenure at the port, he owned and operated Columbia River Journeys Tour Boat Company for 11 years. One more time, let's give him applause. And finally, representing the Port of Pasco, let's welcome Executive Director Randy Hayden to the stage. Randy is a native Tri-Citian. He has been with the port 17 years, joining the staff in 2000. Randy is University of Washington alumni with a degree in civil engineering, and he earned his professional engineer's license in 1993. Before joining the port, Randy worked as a private consultant. Please give him a warm welcome once again. And once again, gentlemen, thanks so much for being here, Scott, Tim, and Randy, and for sharing what you guys do for the community and really the entire region. We've prepared a short video to give everyone a little bit more perspective on their job, so let's roll it.
What is a port? Why do we have them? Why 3 port districts? Port districts were authorized by the state in 1911 to encourage waterfront commerce. Since then, their economic development roles have expanded beyond the waterfront to building and operating airports, marinas, marine terminals, railroads, industrial parks, and tourism. In our state, port districts are established by citizen vote, and their boundaries vary. They can cover an entire county or city limits. They cannot cross county lines. There are 75 port districts in Washington state, from massive districts like the Port of Seattle to very small districts like the Port of Colotis. They all share the same mission, though: economic development. Port of Kennewick, the oldest port in eastern Washington, was formed in 1915. Port of Kennewick covers most of eastern Benton County, including Kennewick and West Richland. Port of Pasco, which recently celebrated its 75th anniversary, was formed in 1940. Port of Pasco covers most of Franklin County, from Pasco to Connell. Port of Benton, the newest port, was formed in 1958 and is approaching their 60th anniversary. The Port of Benton covers most of West Benton County, including North Richland and Prosser. Each port uniquely evolved since being established, and they continue to engage in those activities which best address the changing needs of their district.
Hi, I'm Randy Hayden, the Executive Director at the Port of Pasco, and I wanted to take a couple minutes to show you some of the great things that the port is doing.
2433.
All of you are familiar with the largest piece of our operation, running your Tri-Cities Airport. I hope you've had the opportunity to fly out of the Tri-Cities Airport since we completed the $43 million expansion and remodel. We completed the expansion this January, and a lot of you were there to join us in celebrating this great accomplishment. This was the largest project ever undertaken by the port, and we think you'll agree the results have been amazing. And based on sales, many of you have enjoyed our new bar. And many of our small passengers have enjoyed our airport director's favorite spot, the children's play area. Oh, Buck, again?
Thank you, BNSF. Thank you, GISA.
The port is also excited about progress at our beautiful waterfront business park, Osprey Point. Our first office building is completely full.
This past year, we added Basin Disposal, McKay and Sposito, the Legislative Office for Representative Jenkins from the 16th District, and ISO testing to our existing tenants, Schooler and the Pasco Chamber of Commerce. We also created a new food truck pod called the Food Point.
There you are, sir. Port of Pasco has been great so far, giving us a location and opportunity to grow our small business here.
Something we hope will grow over time to serve the growing population here at Osprey Point and at Big Pasco. Speaking of which, this is just one of the warehouse bays that makes up the over 2 million square feet of office and industrial space managed by the Port of Pasco. Over the past year, we've added a number of new tenants here at Big Pasco, too many to actually mention. Well, that works. Volm built a new package manufacturing plant, and Teton West built a second, larger building at the Foster Wells Business Center. Combined, the companies built over 100,000 square feet of new light industrial and office space. Foster Wells is part of the larger Pasco Processing Center, which was recently recognized with the Visionary Award from the Mid-Columbia Ag Hall of Fame. We had a lot of new faces at the port as well. We welcomed Vicki Gordon as our new commissioner, Donna Watts as our new Director of Finance, and Don Faley as Deputy Director of Airports. Rounding out the changes, we promoted Myra Reyna to Director of Properties and Buck Taft to Director of Airports. Again, thank you for this opportunity, and we look forward to your questions.
Hi, my name's Scott Keller. I'm the Executive Director of the Port of Benton. Welcome. We'll be giving you a tour of a few of the port's many projects from inside the Triton Submarine Sail Conning Tower. Many people ask me, what is a port? We're many things, and for a sneak preview of just a few projects we are currently working on, come with us as we take a tour of some of our many partnerships and projects here at the Port of Benton. And now we're off to the Technology and Enterprise Center.
Come in here and I see my parking lot full. It's put a smile on my face. It really does. It's more than I ever could have imagined.
We just had our one-year anniversary, actually, September 24th. The port has been instrumental.
Excited for the years to come and thankful for everyone that's helped us along the way.
And now we're off to Benton City.
The Port of Benton redevelopment efforts have really heated up in Benton City, where Labrie Glass Studio has put down roots.
Port of Benton has been nothing but gracious and kind. They've just been really good and really helped in getting this off the ground.
A Subway restaurant expansion is currently underway. It will open in spring of 2018.
On to Prosser.
Vintners Village had a groundbreaking for a $2.5 million development building, and it will complement Vintner Village tenants who serve the wine and food industries.
Right behind us.
The Prosser Airport held its 28th annual Prosser Great Balloon Rally. 20 balloons were launched and had the largest crowd to date.
And then south of Prosser, Crowby Park.
We held our 10th anniversary at Crowby Park this summer. Armin Minthorn from the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation offered a dedication and prayer.
Since then, we've strengthened our friendship and our working relationship. And now today, 10 years later, Port of Benton is still here. This place looks great. It really does.
And last but not least, the Richland Airport.
The port has invested approximately $2.7 million in Richland Airport projects. We also are redesigning a new entryway for 2018.
Fly on the airplane for the first time.
Awesome. My sister got to fly.
The 11th annual aviation celebration was held this year where 200 kids flew for free.
Did you guys see that? Dive! Dive!
Facilitating trade, economic development, and promoting tourism is the mission of the Port of Kennewick. In Richland, our Spalding Business Park continues to attract new businesses, jobs, and services. To date, more than $45 million in private investment is on the tax rolls as a result of our tipping this neighborhood in a new direction. In West Richland, we completed a 93-acre master plan and removed deed restrictions on the former racetrack site to meet the future needs of Washington's growing wine industry. In Kennewick, we're working to reconnect the community with the Columbia River and have transformed Clover Island into a waterfront destination with artwork and public amenities. We removed a tired building and created a scenic viewpoint, and we extended the shoreline trail and installed an artwork honoring the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla. Now, 2 parcels are ready, giving the private sector options for commercial and residential living overlooking the Columbia. Adjacent to Clover Island, the port has partnered with the City of Kennewick to develop the Columbia Gardens Urban Wine and Artisan Village. The first 3 buildings were finished in October, the wineries are opening soon, and more artwork is planned. Benton County is now funding Phase 2, which includes parking, roads, and a food truck area, waterfront plaza, and space for tasting rooms, restaurants, breweries, galleries, and more. Columbia Basin College announced plans to build a culinary school. And the redevelopment partners were honored with the 2017 Governor's Smart Communities Award. The Port is working to transform the former Vista Field Airport into a regional destination. And we are following a community-driven master plan. The vision is to create a walkable, bikeable, transit-oriented town center with urban lifestyle amenities. And we've signed a letter of intent for a privately funded art center to locate at Vista Field. Our plans for redevelopment are on track. We're taking a pay-as-you-go approach to financing. And Phase 1, which includes a water feature, will open up roughly 20 acres for development. The Vista Field project will add millions of dollars to the community's tax base while meeting a demand for new housing and commercial needs. The Port of Kennewick, we're working for you.
Now, that was an amazing video. I need to borrow that. I had a young reporter ask me, well, I didn't know we could take cruises out of Kennewick, out at the port, so I really need to borrow this from a teaching standpoint for them. So, but you could see all the work that the ports do in terms of economic development, their outreach into the community, and what an integral part they are to our region. So we appreciate all your guys' hard work, certainly. So what a great video. Now let's get to our Q&A session of the program. We'll start with 2 prepared questions, then we'll go to the audience questions. A reminder, if you would like to ask a question to one or all 3 of the ports, please submit that question through the slido.com that we told you about at the start of the program. I guess if your app doesn't work or something, you could probably write it, or if you really want to ask a question, just come up and tell me and I'll ask the question. All right, our first question for all 3 ports is, what is the top priority for your particular port? Scott, we're going to start with you.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me? Is the mic on? Hear me okay? All right. I just want to thanks everybody for being here. I think it's great. Before I get started, I want to thank Grant Monrain and Wally Williams for putting together that video. It was kind of a kick in the butt to do, and I know that they helped Randy with his, and we just had a blast. And before I start, I also want my team, my Port of Benton team over here to stand up. Stand up, everyone, and my commissioners. Because you know, I'm the one that's lucky enough to get up here and be able to do this, but without them, without my team, nothing could be done. And we have grown so much in the last 15 years that it's unbelievable. I just turned 62. I'm losing my hearing and I'm losing my eyesight, so I had to get some cheaters. And I've even got a cheater deal here. But I just want to talk a little bit about what the assets that we do have. We've got over 2,700 acres. About half of that acreage is developed, half is empty, and we're planning for future development on that. We have 50 to 60 buildings. We've lost track. I know our insurance guy is here today. He's going to try and give us a good count on everything. We've got close to 1 million square feet of leasable space, and I'm glad to say that most of it's full. 145 companies are in all our sites. We have 9 sites. 3,290 jobs is what we've counted to date. We have 2 airports. We're one of the few ports in the state that has 2 airports. We have Richland Airport, which is it's a general aviation airport, but it's got about 200 based aircraft. And we have the Life Flight air ambulance out there. It's awesome. And it's growing by leaps and bounds. It's unbelievable because general aviation in general has not shown a great growth, but the Richland Airport, we've made it nice and friendly, and it's like a little community out there. Prosser Airport's got about 35 based aircraft. It's growing. I want to thank the FAA. They give us a ton of money to keep those airports going, and they're a hard job to keep going. And John Hawkinson, our airport director. We have a barge facility and a high dock. I could talk about that forever, but anyway, it's on the river. We're at 384 miles upriver from Portland. We have a duly served rail line that both Class 1s have access to. Very rare. The rail line runs from Columbia Center Boulevard to Horn Rapids Road. There actually is a loop track now out there that brings in grains, etc. And it's bringing in a lot. We have the largest preferred freezer, the largest freezer in well, the North America is what we're told. And it's bringing in a lot of interest and a lot of other diversified jobs to the area. Other development opportunities. I mean, we've got the Crowby Park was mentioned. It's an awesome park. If you haven't been down there, we took it over 10 years ago, and we've been able to get grants and improve it tremendously. I think we've got a couple $1 million worth of investments in just Crowby Park. Our vision and our mission, of course, is economic development. You all know that. Our vision for the future is just a great return on investment for our taxpayers. That's our vision and our mission. We did acquire about 760 acres from the Department of Energy recently, and that is kind of our 20-year vision. That's beyond Horn Rapids Road. It's a lot of acreage. We want to keep it kind of suited for a mega site for a large company. We help tons of little companies, and if you don't have inventory of a large acreage area for large companies that might want to come in here, you're kind of stuck. So anyway, and I want to thank my team again. I want to thank you guys for allowing us to be up here and talking, and we really appreciate it.
All right, thanks a lot. Tim, you're next.
Yeah. So I think the question, I don't know if my mic is working very well.
Yeah, can you guys hear him? Oh, we do have a backup if you can.
Okay, how about now?
Yep, sounds
okay.
a bit better.
I believe the question related to the vision of where
What's your top priority?
Yeah. Well, we all have a lot of really interesting projects, and we're going to get into that a little bit later. One of the things that I think is very important, not only to Port of Kennewick, but to all of us, is transparency. We work for you folks. You most likely live in one of the 3 districts, and before you can really talk about which project it is you're going to dive into, I think we need to talk about good governance, transparency. One of the things that I know our team really strives for is to be transparent, to interact with the public, to ask you what you think is important before we go pursue a project. So having said that, I'd like you to kind of remember that as I get a little bit further in answering some of the questions that we're probably going to get, because sometimes we forget and we just go right into showing you something we're building, but you can't build anything if we don't have the trust of the public that actually pays the freight. You guys pay taxes into one of these 3 districts most likely, and we have to have transparency where we are being held accountable to you folks. And that's been really important to our port, and that's something that we're going to continue because it is the underpinnings of everything else we do. And I really didn't evade talking about some of the cool projects that we've got, because I think that there's maybe another question in the stack for us. But before I conclude on this one, I do want to mention my team. I think they've got the first 2 tables here. We've got port commissioners that set the tone. They set the policy. They're the ones that you go talk to directly if you have a great idea. They set the tone. It is then communicated to me as the manager, and then it goes through my able-bodied staff, and we can build all of these cool things that you see in the video. So I really appreciate the team that we've got here, and again, going back to transparency, which is our vision. It may sound boring. You know, Scotty showed you a submarine ride and everything, and that's pretty cool. I want to get a ride from Scotty, but we can't forget the underpinnings of what we do in governance is we work for you, and we'd better have a real clear message and communicate it to you early and often on what we're going to do.
Tim, thank you. Randy, what's your top priority at the port?
It's a really tough question because as time goes on, we kind of ebb and flow. But I did think a lot about this question, and right now our top priority is encouraging large industrial growth in Franklin County. And I think many of you know here in Pasco, we are challenged by our property taxes. We have one of the highest tax rates in the state. And that's largely a result of our large residential population without the commensurate industrial and commercial investment in our community. So that large industrial growth is going to help bring sustainable jobs and a healthy tax base to our community. A lot of you may work at Hanford and live in Pasco. Many folks in Pasco work over in the Wallula industrial area and live in Pasco. So we've got the folks that choose to live in Pasco because it's a great place to live, but we need more of the commercial industrial growth. So as a port, we're focusing on that industrial growth so we can help balance that equation. So we're doing two things to make that happen. We are currently in the process of buying 100+ acres to do a new industrial park. We were very successful with our Pasco Processing Center that took about 20 years to get 5 large food processors, 2 large cold storage outfits, some logistics companies, and now some manufacturers with Volm Industries moving in there. So we want to duplicate that success. That's brought in a lot of jobs, a lot of tax base to our community. So we want to duplicate that with some new large industrial ground. We're currently in negotiations with the State Department of Natural Resources to get some ground out in Northeast Pasco. It's a very challenging process, and we hope we will get there. The second thing we're doing to promote industrial growth is to buy a large block of water rights. And this is typically something we haven't done. We've left that to the city and to the industries to bring their own water. But water's becoming more scarce, so we foresee a future when that water that we've just relied upon may not be available for industry. So we're going to purchase some water rights so that we can bring that to our inventory of land and utilities, to what we bring to the industrial growth. So those are a couple very specific Port of Pasco initiatives, but we've also been working with our community on a larger community economic development vision called Somos Pasco, or We Are Pasco. So we partnered with the city, the county, the PUD, our local chamber, the Hispanic chamber, the school district, CBC, on really coming up with the plan on what we want Pasco to be like in the next 20 years and what are the steps to get there. So we just this year have finished up our study on that. We're moving into the implementation stage, and if anybody wants to learn more about that, we have a website, somospasco.org, where Gary Blue, our economic development director, has really spearheaded that. You can talk to him. And also I want to thank my staff and commissioners who are in the last 2 tables. You guys want to wave your hands? Yeah.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. We'll get to our next question. And I know some of the answers sort of address this, but we'll touch on it again. What is the next big project that your port is working on? Tim, we'll start with you.
Great, thank you. And so now maybe you can see my really weird answer to the first one kind of brings in the underpinnings of this one. We've got a couple really interesting projects in front of us. One of them is continuing on with the Columbia Gardens Wine and Artisan Village. It's in the older part of Kennewick, East Kennewick. We currently have 3 buildings there that we're essentially handing the keys over to the tenants. We've got 2 small wineries that are moving in there, so they're incubator-like buildings in the sense that you have great winemakers that just need some space to grow. So we've got 2 wineries moving in there. We are going to be adding infrastructure so we can have property there along Columbia Drive to sell to other wineries because the demand is there. And that was a project in partnership with the City of Kennewick. They put in pre-treatment facilities for wine effluent because the washdown water from the wineries, from barrel washing to production, needs to be pre-treated before it hits any sewer system or outfall. So the City of Kennewick stepped up big time, partnered with us to build this phase 1 of the Wine and Artisan Village. We're now stepping into phase 2. There will be another couple $1 million of investment with infrastructure, and then we have property that we can sell to small businesses. And it's not just wineries, it's things like small bistros. We have current restaurants there that are thrilled with the reinvigoration and the revitalization that our port is bringing to East Kennewick. That's just one project. Another project is in Richland, and you're going to get a theme here that our ports have to be attentive to a number of other partners. You can't just talk about what you're doing in one community. One thing I want to talk about is we're working with the City of Richland on an exciting project in the Crowby Park Trail area out in front of our award-winning Spalding Business Park to bring in additional infrastructure and to kind of narrow up the streets, to bring some of the new urbanist feel to that part of Crowby Park Trail. That's a project on our part that's probably going to be $600,000 to $800,000 of assistance to the City of Richland. The biggest project for us, the one that I've kind of stepped around until this point, is Vista Field. Vista Field is 103 acres in the heart of our community. If you're a hunter, you look down the scope of the rifle, we call it the crosshairs. You could not pick a more central part of our communities than Vista Field. It was an old airport. very underutilized, small aviation airport. Port Commission closed the airport after public input. It is now 103 acres. We've been master planning it with community input. Remember, that goes back to my first question, transparency. We heard from the community what it is that they thought we all ought to build together. So we're building a new urbanist community, which means an area kind of like the old towns used to be, where they're walkable, where you have a reason for being there, and it's going to be filled with small shops. There's going to be live-work units where, like in the olden days, you could live above a business. It's going to have a lot of amenities for the public, and it's really hard to describe now, but it will be, if we do it right, we as a community, it will be a new focus for our community. It will bring additional regional attention to our area, and it's something that we really haven't seen in the state of Washington on the level that we want to bring it to you in Vista Field. So that's really our biggest project. You might have heard a little bit about that in other places, but that is going to be the one that really requires us as a port to keep our foot on the gas.
All right, thank you very much. Randy?
So large projects next year, aside from the land and water I already mentioned, we've got a bunch of stuff going on at the airport. So we finished the terminal project, that's great, but the airport's kind of like the Golden Gate Bridge. When you finish painting it, you got to go over and start all over again. So our airport staff loves to talk about the projects we've got going on out at the runway taxiways, and I always tell them nobody cares about that stuff. But I think it's important every once in a while just to remind folks that we do a lot of work just to keep that airport running. So this year we've got a number of large projects planned. On the airfield side, we've got an $8 million taxiway realignment project. That's part of some FAA safety requirements, and it'll also open up some new land for aviation development the way we realign it. We've got a $6 million project second phase of project to completely replace our apron on our general aviation side of the airport over where Bergstrom is and some of our other general aviation tenants. The concrete out there was put in World War II when that was built as a Navy base, and the apron out there is kind of like an old sidewalk that had the tree roots have lifted up the sections of sidewalk. It was just very, very uneven, not a good situation for aircraft taxiing over the ramp. So we'll be finishing that second phase of that project up this year, $6 million. And then in the terminal, the one piece that we didn't finish yet was putting in some new high-speed baggage screening equipment inside the terminal. So that's a $5 million project that we'll be doing this year, and that will get more of your bags through the airport faster, and it will allow TSA to help get your bags through faster. So behind the scenes stuff that you just kind of take for granted, but it's a lot of work from our port staff over here, and a lot of federal dollars coming in to support all those projects. That is mostly federal grants that pay for those sorts of projects.
All right, thank you, Randy. Scott?
Okay, I'll go quick here. A couple projects up in Prosser. You saw in the video we're building a development building. It's about 9,000. Nothing? No. Tess, got me? Anybody? Okay, how about this? Oh, okay. Sorry about that. We'll start with Prosser. As you saw in the video, we have a $2.5 million building going on up there. We've got the building will be, such as Tim was talking about, like an incubator type wine village type thing, but it's going to be 3 bays, also going to house the Prosser Economic Development Association. We are really heavily involved in the wine industry in Prosser. We got a bunch of huge stuff going on, and it has been going on since 1989. We also have another building that is under development right now. We should be out for bids in the next week or two. Chucker Cherry Company, I think you've heard of them. I think there's some stuff on your table that you should enjoy. They're expanding. They're in about 24,000 square feet of our buildings up there right now. They need another 12,000 minimum, and we're going to have about a $2 million building going in there for them, hopefully, if everything works out. Let's see. I don't want to take anybody else's time, but Richland Airport, we have some improvements going on at the entrance there. If you haven't driven in there, it's going to be really cool. Nobody knows where the airport is, and what we want to do is open it up, make it available for people to see, because there's a lot of stuff that goes on in there. It's a industrial area. There's probably, who knows, there might be 4,000 to 5,000 people that work in that area. Other than that, I think, and I know I missed something. Oh, we're working with the B reactor and the Manhattan project, and hopefully we did build them or they were actually in one of our buildings, and we'd like to work with them and partner with them on bringing in some more tourism. Tourism's part of economic development also. It's huge for this state. It's unbelievable. And if we could, this national park is going to be amazing. So if we can help them in any way grow and expand, we're into that too.
All right, gentlemen, thanks so much. We're going to field some questions from the audience, and I'm going to hold you to the 2 minutes because I know a lot of folks got to get back to work. So let me get my iPhone set here. So if I offend you by telling you to stop, I apologize in advance, but I'm going to hold you to it. All right, this is an anonymous question. This is for Randy Hayden. What is the status of the public market?
Great question. I was about to talk about that before my 2 minutes expired last question, so thank you for some additional time to talk about that.
I hate being that guy.
So the public market, there's a private group that's looking at that in the Tri-Cities, and we've been talking with them. We're not formally affiliated with them, but we do think a public market somewhere in Pasco makes a lot of sense. So we have partnered with the City of Pasco. We just hired a consultant jointly to look at where would be the best location for a public market in Pasco, and then how do we get that to happen. So ink was just drying on that deal, and we've got 2 locations we're really looking at. One is at our property at the foot of the cable bridge as you come over into Pasco, our former marine terminal. It's got a cool old wharf, wood dock. It's on the waterfront, so it's got a lot of atmosphere there. And then the other side is downtown Pasco, where the farmers market is. Could take advantage of some of just the energy there with the downtown setting. And a lot of difference between a farmers market, public market. Farmers market tends to be more seasonal, limited to produce. The public market is a year-round, 7-day-a-week operation with it might have some produce, but it's also got some local arts and crafts, some local food manufacturers, restaurants, some very cool stuff. So we think that could be a great catalyst for some new development in either of those areas.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, we've got another question coming up on the screen. And it has a person's name. Should I keep them anonymous or? Oh, with that being said, I don't need to say it, you know. All right, when will the CBC Culinary Center be built and completed? And this is a question for all of you. Scott, why don't I start with you?
I think it's Tim, because I think that's what they've got going on with CBC.
Oh, excuse me, my fault. Threw me off with the whole name thing.
I want to hand the mic back to Scotty. Come on, tell me. I'd like to. No,
I'm going to wait for the new chancellor. Oh, that's right.
No, that's a great question. The Port of Kennewick, the City of Kennewick, and Columbia Basin College have been in talks about building a culinary institute on some property that's just on the gateway to Clover Island in East Kennewick, along, right next to this wine and artisan village that we've been building. Very exciting project. It will be a building of about 20,000 square feet where people can come in. I wanted to say young people, but it's actually a place where people from our community and other communities can come in and learn the skills to not only open your own restaurant, but to work in another restaurant currently that we have here, or in the food service industry. It's really an amazing web of opportunities that we have with the Culinary Institute, and they have them in some pretty famous places. They have them in the town of Napa. I believe they have one in Seattle, but if you look in our area, we don't have them here. They have one in Spokane that we've looked at as a model. It's very, very exciting. It will add immensely to the vibrancy of our community. It's what they call a game changer. And to have that in our community, and to have that in East Kennewick, in a part of town that the port and the city have been working to revitalize, will be huge. I think the question was, when will it be operational? We put ourselves on a 4-year timeline from about a year ago to formulate the project, to fundraise, to basically build the infrastructure. And that's a pretty fast time frame for a project that is going to cost $10 million. So we're assisting CBC in the fundraising aspect of this, but great things like that take time. So I do appreciate the question. It's going to be, again, I'm going to repeat, it's going to be a game changer for East Kennewick and our region.
All right, thanks so much. All right, this is an easy one, anonymous. All right, can you give examples of how your 3 port districts are working together to make Tri-Cities a bigger, bolder, better place to live? Scott?
We have what is called triports, and it's the executive directors get together, and we were monthly. I think we're into quarterly now because it was really tough for us all to get together. We sit down, we brainstorm on ways that we aren't duplicating each other when it comes to marketing or going out to on the field or something like that. And it's just one of those things that if we get a lead, the Port of Benton, if we get a lead, we know we cannot have it. There's nothing that we have in our infrastructure or in our toolbox that we can handle. We will call Tim or his team and or Randy, and we will shift it to them because it's just all we care about is the Tri-Cities and what's going to happen here in the Tri-Cities. And we've got enough stuff. I mean, we've got enough stuff going on all the time, and we do work together very good, and I'm really proud of that fact because I think we all get along really well.
And you guys can elaborate if you'd like, if not. If you think you answered it.
I'll add one specific example. Tim has mentioned their Columbia Wine Gardens and that whole development down there in East Pasco, historic East Kennewick. Where I was going was to East Pasco. Okay. We sat down with Tim, our commissioners have sat down together and shared our master plans for those two areas because they're just across the river from each other. And so, you know, as we look at planning what we're going to do, we see what Port of Kennewick is doing, they look and see what we're doing. Again, we try not to duplicate, but we also see the potential just to create something greater. And I did call it a historic district, and I think that's something that as we continue on our plans, we will just have this great 2 downtowns, waterfront, you know, maybe water taxi. There's some just great stuff that we can do working together. So sharing our initial planning efforts together, I think, is going to turn in some really good stuff.
Thanks so much. This is from Bill Shibley. What is the business case for Port of Benton and Port of Kennewick remaining 2 separate entities? Tim or Scott, whoever wants to start.
Well, that is a fantastic question. I think there are advantages to each of the 3 ports currently doing what they do. As Scott talked about, we get together occasionally. We talk about what it is that collectively we can do. We also talk about, frankly, what we're doing and how we can stay out of the way of the other ports, because the other great things that these folks are doing, I want to make sure that our efforts at Port of Kennewick don't get in the way of that, and to the extent that we can be helpful, we do that, and that's an important thing of triports. So first I'm going to say there's some really good things that each of us can do individually. But the question of consolidation has come up in this community before. I've been here 21 years, and I've heard it every couple of years, and it doesn't only reference ports. I think they've talked about cities and other services. But I think, you know, we've heard this question a number of times related to 2 ports consolidating. And I'll give you my personal view on it. There is a statutory mechanism to do this. And we talked about transparency. If this is going to be a community issue, we need to start with a full discussion of what it would look like, what it might be. I mean, Scotty and I, we can work great together if that's what the community wants to do. There will be some things that could be accomplished better. You know, some of the bigger projects in front of our ports might be more manageable if there were one port and it was larger and it was consolidated. But again, there's a good case to be made for the 3 small ports doing what we're doing. But again, great question, and I think we're going to continue to hear this question over the next few years, and I think it really needs to be addressed head on, and it needs to be dug into a little bit. Again, transparency. If this is what the community really thinks we ought to be looking at, I think it gets on the agenda.
Scott, go ahead.
And the big question or comment that we hear mostly is it's going to be less expensive. Everything will be collaborated together. I'm an economist, and we've reviewed this over and over and over again, and it does not become less expensive. We've got places like Prosser, Benton City. We've got a lot of properties in there. We spent a lot of time up there and with North Richland. And it does not become less expensive if you have like 5 port commissioners and 1 director, and you're going to have to double your staff when it comes to maintenance people. We've actually looked at this, and I just think what we're doing, and we do get along, we do collaborate things, And I think it's the way we're handling it right now, it's just fine.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Another question. Do the ports support efforts to have Columbia River shoreline lands returned from the Corps of Engineers back to local ownership? Who'd ever like to tackle this hot button issue? It seems to always be in the news.
I think we probably have different answers here. So I'll speak for the Port of Pasco. And yes, we did pass a resolution in support of that. And I think our commission was very clear that the reason they support that is they feel that local control of those shorelines, so that our people who live here and reside here can make the decisions on what happens to those properties versus the federal government, who doesn't understand, I think, some of our dynamics. We should have that control here. We think that there are many variety of uses that our river shore could be used for. Natural preserves, parks, some commercial development. There's many things. We think we've got a wide variety, and we think we've got a lot of riverfront to do that.
Tim, go ahead.
Oh, I know you're going to hopefully parlay onto this. Really important thing is you got to include the tribes. They are a part of this, and they need to be included when it comes down to what happens to the shorelines, because they were here. And that's the big question, you know, and how do you do it? How do you get them involved? They do not like to be surprised. They're wonderful people. But they have to trust you, and you've got to get them involved from day one, and hopefully they'll feel like part of it.
Well, I agree with Scotty, not that I'm disagreeing with Randy, but it's a pretty complex issue, and what I found is there's no simple answers to complex questions, and I just hope that we as a community have an appreciation for how complex this question is. Scotty raised some good points. There has to be meaningful dialogue with the tribes. And, you know, we talk about transparency. Remember how I started off? Transparency. I don't know. Again, I'm just speaking for myself. I don't know if this has been brought out to the public in a process of asking the public, do we want the shorelines back? What does that mean? Does it mean you have to pay millions of dollars a year in maintenance? I don't know. So I think that the Port Commission did write a letter on this issue, and one of the things they mentioned was that their view was that there really hadn't been a full outreach to the community to discuss what this transfer might entail, whether the community really wanted it. We know some elected officials and bureaucrats thought it was a good idea, but I think it really is something that needs to be brought to the public in a transparent fashion through a series of workshops, and ask the public, do you really want it, knowing all of the strings that might be attached. And one of the strings is there are at least 4 Native American tribes that lay claim to the riverfront. And if we don't address that up front with the 4 tribes, with the 4 competing interests that they may have, I'm not so sure that we really move this thing along effectively. I'm not opposed to it. I just think that we have to do a little bit more digging and get the process right.
Thank you. Next question. What's the latest with the daily flights to LA? Randy.
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. It's really good, and we've made a lot of outreach on that effort. We don't have the flight yet. So what we've been doing since, I think it's been 2 years now since we got a federal grant with the support of many of you, and again, thank you so much for your local support, is reaching out to all the airlines. So we've got a team that's actually led by TRIDEC, an air service task force for the Tri-Cities, and we have a consultant that we hire, and he gets us in the office, the headquarters office of all the major airlines, so American, Delta, United, Alaska, Horizon, SkyWest, and about once a year at a minimum we're down in those offices showing them the numbers of why it makes sense to get to LA. Anyway, so I just wanted to let you know that we're working on it. With that, we don't have that scheduled service. We keep getting close with a particular airline, and then something happens, like you all are aware that Alaska or Horizon is having problems with pilots in getting flights. So you may be getting close to Alaska and say, but we can't do it because we don't have the pilots to do that. Aircraft is another issue. Gates at LAX is another issue. So there's a lot of people that think on the airlines it's a great idea. We just haven't got all the pieces to line up yet. So our grant is actually good through middle of next year. If we don't have an airline lined up, we can get an extension. So we are continuing to work hard on that LA service, and we will deliver.
All right, thank you. What accomplishments from 2017 are you most proud of? Tim?
Well, there's several. I think working for a great group of commissioners. Obviously, I got to say that. No, I mean it. For me, personally, I think we are getting really, really close to installing the Latino Mural on the side of the two wine buildings on Columbia Drive. Briefly, it's a really long mural that's going on the side of the wine buildings that is being painted by an artist in Miami that the Latino committee selected. It's going to depict the contribution that the Latino culture has made to our area, to the wine industry, and then also to all other aspects of our life. Why it is really significant to me is because a person from the community came up and said, this is a project we should pursue. And I said, when you get like 8 or 9 other folks that think it's a great idea, bring it back. They did. They formed their own committee. They even went out to the fields to talk to the workers to make sure they got the thing right. Without going on further and further, for me, that was one of the most meaningful things, certainly in 2017. I think the Port Commission feels that way as well.
All right, thank you. Scott?
Oh, I love my commissioners. They know I do. What I'm most proud of is we've been kind of in a big growth spurt, and we've hired a couple individuals that have helped our team work together really well, taken a lot of stress off me and a couple other people that were involved in some things. And that was one. The Richland Airport entrance and all the work that we have done out there, to develop additional room for hangar development, which has occurred, unbelievable. Like I said, general aviation all over the United States has gone down. At the Richland Airport, it's crazy. I mean, we build out 20 spaces for hangars, and I mean, we're almost leased out already. The Vintners Village, we've had a plot of land up there with about 20 tracts of land. Nothing's happened. It's all, we kind of glutted out. We thought we glutted out. And infrastructure's in, everything's there, ready to go. We decided to build a building. You know, you got to bite the bullet. You want to get something going, and hopefully it'll be a domino effect. Other people see what we're doing, and I think it's going to happen. We already got some interest up there. Benton City, tough deal there. We've done a lot of. We've purchased some older buildings, fixed them up. We've got some things going. The glass guy, what you guys, is awesome. If you haven't stopped and talked, that guy's a wonderful guy. Subways coming together. That'll be cool in downtown. They don't have any place to eat, and it's healthy. Other than that, I mean, I'm just proud of everything we do, and my guys and gals, and my commissioners, and I love them.
Randy.
First, the airport terminal project, you mentioned it, we got the award, and that was I think we all feel a great sense of accomplishment. What made that such a huge accomplishment was our Citizens Committee challenged us to build that terminal as big and as nice as we did, because when we went into it, we were just going to do a little bit here, a little bit there, and over 20 years, we would get it done. But they said, you know what, we don't want a terminal under construction for 20 years. We want it done once, done right, done big, and that challenged our financial status as a port. I mean, so Commission took a really strong position and said we're gonna go ahead and get the money for this, bond out a lot of money, and pledge your guys' fees that you pay on your airport tickets to pay for that, and took the step and did the plunge. So we're really proud of that. I think we're also very proud that we have fully leased, as I said in the video, our first office building down at Osprey Point, trying to get redevelopment going in that beautiful area of East Pasco, and we're seeing a lot of additional interest, so I think that's going to be something that will continue on. And maybe just one thing to add that I didn't get to list on my list of projects was we did sign a lease with a local hotel developer to build another hotel right at the entrance to the airport, where they are hoping to break ground on that in spring of this year. So we'll see. Hopefully there's a lot more development on that piece of property.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much. That's going to conclude your guys' efforts up here. Before I bring Tony back up to the stage, let's give these guys a big round of applause for being here today. And once again, thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
Okay, again, thank you all for being here. This is great. What did you think of this? Is this a good program? You want to do it again? All right. Mike, thanks. And thank you all for participating. Now I have the opportunity to have one of our staff terror divers come up who has the wonderful job of giving away something as part of the door prize. So come on. Need help?
Hi, so today we have 4 door prizes to give away, and I am going to start with a $35 gift certificate to Mezzo Thai Fusion.
See, I was bribed, so I'm going to pull this one out first.
And the winner is Angie Brotherton with Gisa Credit Union.
Come on down.
And our next prize is 2 tickets to a Celtic Christmas concert on December 12th. And the winner is Kershed Century Securities.
I love it. That's good.
I promise I didn't look.
I'm going to let you pick one since I picked one.
All right. Rebecca Vasquez with Durashine gets a $25 gift certificate to Fat Olives. Rebecca, are you still here? Oh, there she is.
Yeah, there she is in the back. Thanks.
And our last prize is this beautiful bouquet up here from Just Roses. And the winner is Babe Nyberg, Tri-City Cancer Center. Thank you very much. And if you want to donate a door prize to our next luncheon, which is in January during the Women in Business Conference, see me after the program. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Tara. Thanks. That's always a fun part of the program. I appreciate it. I'm going to do just a couple of thank yous to sort of round out, and then I'll close out with a few statements and remind you what's going to be coming up in the future. Of course, we want to thank Chaplaincy Healthcare for their support and that fantastic discussion. That was really motivating, and I could tell the passion you have for that activity. That's fantastic. Thank you so much. The ports, of course, thank you all for participating. Really appreciate it. Those answers were, what I really appreciated was your being straightforward, and just the transparency thing is so important. I agree with you. So thank you all for doing that. Of course, we also can thank the staff here. They always do a great job here to take care of us, so we appreciate that. We also have Charter Communications, who films and then rebroadcasts this throughout the region so people can see the kind of excitement we had here today. And of course, Lori and her staff, who do all the hard work and the heavy lifting so people like me can stand up here and take credit for it. So I appreciate that very much. Okay, a reminder, there will be no luncheon meeting in December because of the holidays. Our next one will be January 31st. It will actually be at the Three Rivers Convention Center. We'll be featuring the Athena Awards. If you recall, those are a great opportunity there to recognize people in our community. And we'll be honored to have as our keynote speaker Dr. Anu Marie Kause, President of the University of Washington. I understand, is that one of you all was UW grad, is that correct? And a civil engineer, I love that, that's great. In closing, thank you again for being here, really appreciate it. Remember, doing business with Chamber members is good business, so do as much as you can. Have a wonderful day and have a great Christmas holiday, and thank you all for being here.